Okay, I think we are running. Let's get our little on the screen. Welcome to Evolution Hour, here on the run, back online after weeks of not having an internet connection. That has been resolved. Thanks, Colton, the wonderful one of our project patrons, Troubles in Paradise, TortuganWordPress.com, the perfect place to find stuff to annoy creationists. Stop. Hello, here's Bent
and Hovind. No relation.
And you should be proud of. Well, not very distant.
Yes.
Proud of the fact of not being related. Yes, I mean
more related. Mr. Hovind.
Exactly. We're related. Every human. Mm-hmm. We're all related to cabbages. We're all related to kinkajous and kind of rings. Kinkajous and kind of rings are. So you are prouder to be related to than
Uncle Kent. No
yes. Have our live chat. Hi, live chat. Oh, great. Whoops.
Stepping in, saying
Yep, indeed. Hi, all. Oh, yeah. It was a double of a time to get everything operational on here. And thank you to our wonderful patron. There's another face. Say hello.
Hello.
TD Lane, who is also on our various networks. We are broadcasting from not exactly the Grand Canyon, but from Williams, where we are staying. In visiting the Grand Canyon, and this is a wonderful adventure. That is it's a dream of mine to be able to visit the Grand Canyon, and I've been taken along as baggage and ballast in the traverse of the things. And we had a delightful. I put a link up, by the way, to Jackson, but I'd be busy at work in that, so I'm not entirely sure. I've been sporadic on Twitter for the last few days on this. Anyway, hi all, it's Landy, Casey, Randy. It's been a frantic few weeks out on here, but we resolved the matter by having a portable internet access Wi-Fi router that I can carry with me. That's why I'm not. It's going to be much more convenient, and we'll get it set up for me to do stuff from home as well. So this will be a very evolution hour, which will catch you up to speed on the delight of having gone out to see him. Colton, who is a geology major, just point out all the neat little stuff as we were walking along the ways and taking the walk through time that you could get along even the rim trail. When we came in yesterday, it was shit. It was 29 degrees. There was and the canyon was all but fogged in. There were just one or two spots where once in a while the fog had lifted up enough to go canyon out there, but you couldn't really see a hell of a lot of it. So we worried, but today it was just wonderful, as I was expecting it to be. It's about 45 degrees pretty much all day, but blue, clear skies, lights, but nothing uncomfortable. And so it was really nice to be able to get around. A thing that was quite amazing, we had stopped at Zion National Park on the way down, and we'll be stopping at back. Both in Zion and Canyon, there's a lot of visitors. And not crowds as you might expect otherwise, but I was actually quite surprised to see how many people were at Zion. That was one that I had driven through many years ago, and one kind of close up and get out of the car and do the actual visiting and looking. They have a series of shuttles that run in Zion Canyon, so you don't have any automobile traffic. And what's interesting about it is, unlike Grand Canyon, where you're coming in at the rim and you're looking down at a precipice, and maybe or maybe not you're going to want to. Zion Canyon is all at the bottom, where the bottom of the canyon is, where the river is. So you're down in this array of these thousands-foot tall defile there, which is another example of what can happen when a river is in an uplift, and is exactly not what you see in the Columbia basalt, or areas where the Zula floodings have slammed through things. Had Jackson been online with us this week, I'm catching up today what we're doing on the new book. See behind me, because I'm not in my den. We're in the house that we had all rented down here in Budapest to have lots of beds and kitchen and all that. We're cooking food and stuff. In fact, part of the gang is getting prepared probably to watch Dan Stern Cardinale rake over Sal Corva's latest paper on his channel. And since we've got independent, they can do that, and I can. It was really nice to be able to see in the canyon the various geologic layers and get a clearer sense of what was going on with the rock formation. The visibility of the trails, which I'd never to go on before, made it really quite nice. We're also going to be going out to see Petrified Forest during this week, which I've never been to as well. Meteor Crater. Yeah. Oh, Scott, do show us Dapper. Oh, Dapper is out doing all sorts of dinosaur things with his top hat on. So we directly visible to anyone on this channel. You think I'm going to let that happen? No, Rebabo. And even though he theoretically could, he could do a voiceover from the, but nah, he will not. So this will be a one in that there's no immediate side topics, no discussion then of the particular Nathaniel Jensen. This was basically a test run to make sure that the streaming system was working on this. Because, it was an find out whether or not the new internet provider and stuff and the phone service that I'm riffing off of was able to handle the bandwidth and all that. But it looks like. Can everybody hear me? Okay. All the while during the last many weeks that I was not online, except sporadically on Twitter, and I've been a busy beaver working on the Big Slosh chapter in particular, geology, material, and flood legends, and the various folderol that circulates around that for the new rocks for their book. And Jackson busy working his ends of things, stuff on geology in the Grand Canyon that I plan to put in maybe in that Big Slosh chapter actually are going to work better some of the other chapters that we have on paleo continents and the like. The audio seems choppy for me. That may very well be the case. We'll have to kind of wing it as we go. It is. So hopefully, as long as I'm not getting any difficulties at my the next thing I'll want to test out is when I have Jackson or other visitors on in the video thing to find out how that affects the bandwidth and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so we got some choppy audio. Sorry, Lavender Lady. Anything that I can do on settings or adjustments to be able to ameliorate that, we may be able. I'll ask some of the people that I know on that. Oh, turning the webcam off might help. Yeah, let me give it a try. Then you'll get nothing but a blank image, and I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I can buy RJ patrons up on there. So bear with me for a bit. I still have to get the patrons picture up, and it wanted to off and a bit ago, and then we'll turn the camera off and see what we can do there. Okay, and there, and that's there, and there, and that's there, and let's see. That will work here. Like I can first we'll turn off get that off, and let me see if I can bring up our patrons list. So and nope. Oh, voila. And there we'll put some images up on people that have helped us over the project, and let me thank you all by name here. We've got oops, I suddenly found a way to read it. There we go. Our colleagues, Hendrel, Colton. Come in here, Colton. Come in here, you. You're the reason why I'm able to do this at all. Getting the thing. The camera. So let me turn the camera back on in here a bit. Let's get back over here, and we'll turn that. There we go. Back on there. There's Colton, one of our wonderful patrons. It has been a huge load off of my mind. And you can thank him. Well, it's thank at it. So, let me turn the camera back off. So this is going to be clumsy. Well, let me know if the damn buttons here. Let me get over here. Okay, now on the live chat, let me know if the if the thing Vesta. Thank you. It's choppy, but it is better than no RJ. But let me know it was actually coming through a little bit better with the camera off on there. So reading the patrons, our colleagues Hendrel, Eric Rowley, Surison Zeshi, researchers Travis Adams, Ian, Convert Me, Stephen Early, Neil, James Fitzwater, History Minor, Ragia Benjamin Simpson, Slava Studio DM Wing. Slava, I must say, is somebody who is potentially working on getting some new website operations maybe going for, and also maybe merch in future. There's all sorts of prospects there, and that kind of got nipped in the bud when my internet connection went down. So be able to get back online and do the plannings and stuff on. So cross fingers. The researchers commend Cyborg, Doranku, Jelly, the lady who is still hanging in there. Do not give up. And Totis Real, Christopher Johnson, don't give up. Lavender, don't give them the satisfaction. That's my motto. And our friends Antoine Bott, Steve Allman, Mariel Beddoes, Daniel Incessor Cool, Morton Nielsen, Paul the Skeptic, Puffaluffagus Wilson, Devin Reeves, Alex Stone, and Paul Williams, and our legacy patrons who've helped at one time, and I'm still going to thank you. Dan and Jody and Mike, John, Keith, Andrew, Dyer, Mona, Brad, Daniel Johnson, Danya, Sun Sky Stone, Ugly German Truths, Everett Vincent, and Sue Wise Bob. So got all that out of the way. Now I'll probably put up a on. There we go. Yeah, okay, Vesta Freya. Yes, I may have to do something on resetting the camera level. I mean, as you know, I'm not exactly ridiculously photogenic, so we may be able to set camera information at a much lower level so that it's not giving us clear a picture, but we'll be able to handle on the streams. Experiment with that in the future on that. It's remember, I'm an old fart. I keep on reminding all of these that we've got here in this mass here, and Colton and TD Lane and Dapper Dino and Connor, Bent Hovind, all that's with us. That I'm amazed that you can have like a portable TV studio that can come out over a portable Wi-Fi network that's going out all over the place, and people all over the planet can theoretically see it for free. I mean, wow, the amazing. So the Grand Canyon stuff, there's going to be a lot on that because it covers huge range. Although it's really, when we took the walk of time that covers just about 2 billion years of time, and you're seeing rock deposits that are characteristic of each one of those things, to realize that's only half of the history of the Earth. And Mammoth Swath, how long it took us to do that walk from the Geological Museum all the way around to Maricopa Point, that reflects that 2 billion years. Yeah, Lavender Lady, shut up about old Jay. I'm right behind you. Exactly. But I was keeping up, a little huffy up some of the little incline we were flipping around, but by and large, I'm not out of the game yet. I refuse, never underestimate the power of stubbornness. So anyway, all that Grand Canyon material that we have organized, not logical material, which is a series of really magnificent paleo worlds that are happening over hundreds, and how creationists have just tried to cram all of it into a cartoon version of things. And so it will make a great deal of sense to bring up in the Paleo Worlds chapter that in the book. And to some extent also, there's going to be a whole separate section on dinosaurs. Hear that, Dapper Dino? And we're having quite a lot of these Mesozoic that would connect up with that will go naturally in that little chapter. So it's a delightful time that I've been working. And once I've been able to get back onto Nornet to where I can do my searches the way I usually do for my PC, that will ease things. I have like there's more of PNAS I need to filter through to find out which of the papers are relevant to the current projects, and I haven't given up. And we'll go ahead with we'll continue to be giving you live updates about the progress of the book, how the chapter structures and things are going, and both of us mentioned to topics that were not brought up in the first book. And so if there's any particular material for readers of the novels, the science books, the Evolution Slam Dunk, and the rocks were there in particular, stuff that we may have missed in shoot us a tweet message or put a thing on the video to say this wasn't covered in the first book, and it wasn't something you were going to be covering in the next book, because there's some things where we had to split that and look at it, because we want that second volume to act as a really good part to the first book. Oh, yes, hello. Oh, I always like to keep my as tight as possible. So I hope you did miss me being gone, and that there's the Wednesday 7 p.m. or when you catch around the old fart has a few things to say. Let me get the ad book up and I can show that. That'll fill a little bit of time here. And that Peter, dear friend, let's run that little commercial and we'll see what we can do here. We need share screen, go over to window. Oops, I got to remember to put that onto. That's right. I got to bring that down. But an image to be shared, if it's full screen, it won't pay attention to it. So it's got to be a bit. And that was the problem with showing some stuff. There we got our window. That's better. Okay, we'll share our little commercial. So this is what book looks like. Box for there, volume 1. Volume 2 will probably be very similarly sized. It again will be full text and fully referenced. There will be a little bit of references that were in the first book as we're touching on them from a new perspective. The vast majority of the documentation will be completely fresh. And there'll hopefully be a really good reference that will give you ammo for dealing with creationists with. We've got lots of in the 2020 and 2021 era. Latest crap from ISIS and Genesis, Creation Ministries International, Internet creationists. A lot of there's different analysis of creationist theologic on human evolution, and some spectacular work on that, which will be alluding and making reference to. Joel Duff been doing a lot of really neat on the new Christs and the fact that they have had to delineate where the differences are between the traditional creationism and like the facts. So you have largely connected up to units at the AIG are sliding into a kind of new creationism that accepts natural selection, that accepts a lot of speciation. It's okay for an awful lot of geologic phenomenon that it would have rejected. Whereas you've got a kind of old guard, and some of them are quite young old guard. Tim Clary and others at CR who are holding the line on some really peculiar interpretations of the young earth creationist model. In particular, the that they're trying to push the flood boundary where the flood ends in the geologic record past the KT extinction and into the Cenozoic, which is up a mess. Joel Duff has done some really on the multi-tuberculates. We're going to be having a reference to that as well. Caspian Sea has a particular case study of how it doesn't begin with conventional creationist thinking, and it certainly doesn't make any sense from the Brian Stephen rubs leg, makes no noise. Vesterfair, I don't think it's older than I am. I'm 69. In fact, I just 9. Let me put a little thing up on there. And there we go. My 69th birthday on the 22nd of September, so I'm just hanging in there. Boop, boop. And I'm glad that the done up. We'll try to work into it in the next episodes. I'll be back home, presumably by then. Well, maybe I'm not entirely sure. I might still be dropping Colton to fly to visit relatives there in Seattle and that. So I'll be staying a few days with some of my relatives. So there may be an evolution hour on the fly that I'll do from my niece's place and then back to the regular stuff from once we're back there. So we'll look over some of the settings on that to see whether or not the camera settings and be set down to the point where they'll be really doable and usable to anybody. Because I don't don't use the graphics. I'm not putting a huge amount of share stuff that sophisticated people they do razzle dazzle graphics and editing and that to me. But then again, I'm doing live streaming rather than prepared work. Yeah, So we each have our components. Maybe someday in the future, as more sophisticated things are available, and I've got more finances to wherewithal, we'll upgrade to that. But at the moment, I'm a talking head. As long as you like the talking head, then I'm happy to continue with it. Here we go. Yes, yeah. Hang in there, Lavender Lady. Grand Canyon, Grand Canyon, Grand Canyon. Yes, Orgay. Yeah, this was a thing I had visited.
Hi,
Yes, Colton says hi, in case you didn't hear him. Whoops, keep on hitting the wrong little blurbs in here. Come on. There we go. That's the one I want to have up. There we go. Grand Canyon, Grand Canyon. There we go. The family, I visited the North briefly and the South Rim very briefly. Never really enough to be able to dive into like the even the rim took today. And being able to get out of your car and start taking looks at old locations and seeing things to where from the Geology Museum at one end all the way down to America took us around a huge arc where you get a real visceral sense of the scale of the place that wasn't easily done unless you can go out to those various points. And the new shuttle bus system and that was here at all when I was here last, which was back in the 1990s, maybe. That has made it a lot easier to flip around. Everybody, of course, is masked up in that in interior spaces. Parks are. And it's kind of funky to see the difference between the rules in some states versus the other as we were driving down. Brian Stevens says, I'm a pup past 18 again this year. So any little questions that you may have had for me that had been pent during the absence of the evolution hour, this is probably the best time to do it. Well, I'm a captive vibrating R on screen and kind of catch up with that. So I'll be looking at the chat overlay. See, oh yes, I should click that in play. Boop. There we go. Another little button I forgot to press, and whether or not that pops up or not. Oh, Brain Bug. Hi, Bug. Yes, I thought we agreed New Zealand is the Grand Canyon. Yes. It's interesting from my understanding of a lot of the geology, and I was actually, in fact, talking with our gang just today about it, is that New Zealand figured in some really interesting cutting-edge geology. There's some interesting magma plume source of lava. There's faulting that goes back an enormous time. In fact, there's volcanic deposits in India that are older than the decaps that are Cretaceous. These are, I think, mid-Cretaceous, somewhere around there, when India was actually down kind of where it is. And so there's a bit of magmatic province that comes from that volcanic plume. There's also, it figures in because there's been a science field that's been emerging in just the last couple of years that are using really sophisticated digital processing of the kind that you do for image adjustment, images from automated car driving or the kinds of things you would need for remote sensing in archaeology that have now been applied to trying to model what happens to subduction. And I think I've alluded to it in some of the earlier shows, but it's probably a cutting edge field. I've harangued Colton that he could get involved with the kind of thing because it involves a mixture of imaging technology and the ability to visualize it. It's easy to see what happens when plates subduct and what happens to them over very long periods of time. So if you think of older G work like 2005, 2010, basically are seeing plate subduction, and you can see the fault zones, and then what happens to the gunk that goes under, it's subducted? What happens to it? Does it melt? Does it pile up? Well, it turns out apparently it piles up. And if anybody has eaten those old Christmas candies, they look like little squiggles that are piled together, and they're usually like about a half-inch kid that pulls your whole mouth off if people try to put them in there. That subducted material piles up like a folded curtain. Looks exactly like that kind of candy. And it stays like a big blob in the deep mantle. And the other stuff that's going on circulates around it. So in the case of this plate subduction that occurred back, I think, in the Ordovician mountain building phase, that when the American continent was rotated slightly differently and the whole west coast of the United States didn't exist at that point, that plate subduction that stuff has stayed put in the deep mantle. The continent has moved over it. So now instantly underneath New York City. And that kind of detailed modeling they're starting to do with the New Zealand area, and they're going to probably do it with all of the major faulting zones, the whole bit up in Japan, and that fault zones, the Rift Valley in Africa, and any of these other places. They're going to be doing more and more of this seismic modeling in the future. And it's going to revolutionize our concept because we're going to more in the way of paleo plate movements, what was going on, and work back into ever older geologic systems. So, it says think thick caulking. Yes, there we go. Really good on that. Voila. And plus it's fun to say think thick caulking. Say that 3 times fast. That so anybody that's in this area, another thing to keep an eye out, we will certainly be keeping an eye out on Evolution Hour, is the extent to which any create lightest attention to any of this work. Yes, that's another issue Brian Stevens brings up here. The Alpine Fault makes New Zealand somewhat odd as a body having multiple parts. We're more and more about how varied and dynamic all of these subduction systems can be. One of the big things that Nick Zentner, his bunch at Central Washington State University, who's been doing some absolutely magnificent, both direct video courses of the geology courses, that also side seminars and field trips and others. And we'll be alluding to an awful lot of that regarding the Pacific Northwest, where I live, that if you imagine, if you look in the standard geology kind of cliche version, basically slamming into one another straight. But it's looking like some really complicated stuff can come up if a plate hits on an angle, and depending upon how those angles are oriented. So there's going to be a whole new dynamic of modeling that is paying attention to features that can happen. And another factor involves seawater is brought down in there. My understanding is like the Andes has such a distinctive rock features to them. It's formed from subductions, just like the Cascades and that. But because so much water got in this mode, it has a different density and dynamics than you find up in the rock formations up in the Cascade. I absolutely agree on the vids on Washington State. All up here in the Pacific Northwest, we often get the shows Nick on Box, and it's starting to show up a lot on the local PBS channels as well. But virtually all of that stuff you can find online. I'll just so you know what the name is. There's from Lavender Lady, Nick Zentner, and you can find his channel. You can find the site, and it's a gold mine of information. And you can download PDFs of the things that they're using in the course. It's just absolutely delightful. Access to a college course, because it's a college course, and you get cutting edge material. Plus, he's just bloody entertaining. I'm a talking head and a jerk by comparison to Nick Zentner. He is absolutely right button. There we go again. Yeah. Brain Bob. Yes, I love how creation is crushing the geology and ecology of New Zealand is. Yeah. The every one of these areas that we're going to be bringing up in the Paleo Worlds chapters an awful lot about the Nick Zentner work on the Pacific Northwest. It is incredibly complex. It's been pointed out by Nick that the people in the geological community have been drawn to the Pacific Northwest for decades because it is like geology central. It has every imaginable thing that you would want to have all in one spot. It has flood basalts. It has glacial. It has examples of remnant geology that slammed into the place. I was struck to find out that the old red sandstone in England, which is like a famous Devonian deposit of fish, and creationists have often made a big deal about it, particularly older creationists, the Henry Morris school. It got pulled apart like taffy, and North America was rotated about 90 degrees there. So what is now the west coast of North America was at that time coast of North America. And a chunk of sandstone got caught like on a conveyor belt of pulling apart taffy, and it's gotten rotated around, and it's a piece of it is rammed up as just a tiny little clump up in the Cascades. I think I can't remember the particular name of the thing. And then there's Silesia, but that's a word that if you're a geological community, a groupie, you'll want to look into this. It's I think there may be a T between the Z, EETZIA, but it's something like that. It's a fragment of a huge continental plateau that was underwater out in the Pacific Ocean. And it apparently broke up as we're shunting it along, so that part ends up as a chunk up in the Cascades, and the northern part of it, I think, it's just absolutely amazing. Yeah. Yes, Brian says Occam's razor used on creation arguments actually wears thin, even though it never gets dull. The thing that we hope to do, project, and everybody that reads the book or listens to the broadcast knows the gospel of methodology, is source methods. It's the universal toolkit. And so your Occam's razor, how you're connecting up deals to explanatory arguments, and how incredibly bad the creationists are to figure things out. And that's why Joel Duff's posts and others are absolutely examples. And there are other people. Michael Richards is doing some wonderful things on his website, going into a lot of the peculiarities of creationism, as well as the history of geology, of which he's written books on it. Silesia, it means region, yes. Vesta brings up a good point of those conveyor belt volcanoes, the crushing Hawaii volcano chains related to radiometric and how far the island chain is moved and how both dates line up. That it also reveals, here's more paleogeology stuff, because if you read the more recent papers on that volcanic chain from the current hotspot plume, trace islands older and older and older up, and I think it's like about a 45 degree going up, and then suddenly there's a bend as the even older islands are going off on a slightly different angle all the way up to like Kamchatka area up into Russia. So there was a thing where the plate movements over the fixed plume have altered their directions way in the past to the where now the current plates over the hotspot in the direction that we now see in those islands that lead up to present day Hawaii. And it's just absolutely wondrous. Amazing, solid work, of which one of the big revolutions to that, so much of the geology work is readily accessible, freebie. So you've got a geology magazine, a big chunks of that are now open access, tons of technical papers that are available in academia, ResearchGate, and college courses like Nick Center, to where you can go ahead and download and participate in that science, worry about having to pony up money to pay to read the PDF. So the more people that get involved with it, that have an interest in geology, the more trouble you can make, because you can dive into their, if they do videos, you can make comments on them unless they cut the thing down. Some of the postings at CMI at the very least have open posting comments for at least, and so everybody can kind of dive in on this stuff and fire that Brian Stevens, yeah, the Yellowstone Caldera. Another thing in the Nick Zentner lectures is it's not yet, but it's really suggestive that if you fact that Yellowstone plume, it looks like the Columbia basalts might be an offshoot thing, like a side blurb that comes up, because the chronologication of it makes a great deal of sense. Yeah, Brian Stevens, yes. If the last eruption of that would be before the Earth forms, yes. I think the most recent one is like 400,000 years ago, something like that, and they can trace back the neat thing about it is they can trace all of these things. If you're familiar with the ashfall deposit in Nebraska, and some creationists have done some stupid things about that. We're discussing that in the new rocks. If memory serves me, and Colton, you can confirm this, the ashfall deposit is actually stuff from one of the Yellowstone eruptions, isn't it?
Which one are you talking about?
That ashfall, Nebraska, all of those mammoths that are buried in this place.
Oh, yeah,
it's one of the Yellowstone eruptions. And because they're so characteristic in terms of signature, they can trace the individual ones back. How far back have they been managed to pull? Is it a couple million years or
older than that?
Yeah,
Joel Duff has a really good piece on it, on like how they Reggie commented on the super.
Yeah, another person, if you are into this area, Colton just reminded us here, Joel Duff's post at Natural Historia, something like that. Oh, the YouTube channel, yes. He's got a YouTube just like old RJ, and his YouTube channel. But also he's got the Naturalist Historian. I think I'm telling from memory here. I think it's kind of like that. But if you, and maybe also our Joel Duff, he actually has his initial up there. He's published a lot of stuff, including at the American Scientific Affiliation Journal and all that. Wonderful stuff, because he's been studying material functionally. He's been doing source on his own. His delicious dissect of the creationist speciation issue and all of that. There's just a wonderful about. Brings up, yes, approximately 640,000 years ago for Caldera, 70,000 years ago in the caldera for that most recent eruption phase. For those who have been to Yellowstone, it's an intimidating thought to you standing there and you're seeing the little hot springs and stuff around there. The caldera is all the mountains that you can see around the whole Yellowstone context. It's like 40 or 50 miles across. Colton, how wide is the Yellowstone caldera? Is it like 40 miles? Something in there. It's like from horizon to horizon. Your mind boggles to realize that's one monstrous plume. And these things happen in various spots around the world. They must have been happening going back, presumably, to the early stages of plate tectonics, probably little fragmentary blips of magnetic provinces exactly like this in deep time, but you can't see much of it because it's been eroded and subducted and overlaid and all that kind of stuff. Just as in reverse, Columbia basalts is such a pain in the ass, so many geologists, because there's a bunch of geological questions that could theoretically be answered about plate movement in that gigantic German chocolate cake that was over 50,000 square miles. You can't see what's underneath it. Even imaging technique can't quite break through it. The Grand Ron is really thick shit.
That you're talking about chocolate cake.
Oh, chocolate cake. Thank you very much. Could you get me one of those?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was about to grab the chocolate cake right out of the hand of TD Lane, but no, you can have yours. We got some chocolate cake to nibble on in our dinner time in here. So, although this is a truncated program that we've done today, I think this is a good open thing. If anybody's got some last minute question thing, they'll put in here. Yes, Brian Cheevan's just Joel's link chain in there, so everybody can kind of see what that is. And again, you can Google him online. I strongly recommend doing that. There's a bunch of episodes, in fact, that I've had to miss while we were on the road and all of that. But I've got references of them, so I can deal with them. And in true, because some of the newer postings, the whole new creationism issue that he's been is just absolutely magnificent, and nobody the kinds of detailed following of the even more so than I do. I mean, I bow admiration about the wonderful work he does, and the thing I mentioned to him, in fact, on Twitter just a couple weeks ago, where I'm saying that nobody can know everything. But if you have a network of people who individually have an interest and communicate easily with one another, we got the damn social media from videos to blogs and Twitter connections and email and all the rest. It means it's for the collective, functionally no much everything. Stephen Early, glad to see you're up and running, listening while putting the groceries away. It's a thing that I'll keep doing as long as I can. We're going to keep working on the various books. After The Rocks Volume 2, we are going to blurb too much about the details they're about, but Jackson, I have books on 2 important topics, of which are in news issues and other things that have been the history that will be for their topics just as comprehensive as the Rocks Were There were. So he's a young kid, and I are together. We're probably these projects for many, many years to come, and we're banging the drum on methodology and on sound scholarship. And then the other side effect is all of this science is so spectacularly. I don't see how anybody can read modern works on atomic physics or on genetics. Dan Stern Cardinale stuff on the genetics. There's this wonderful physicist, a German woman, her name is like Hassenfelder or something like. She started to do videos. We're going to be alluding to some of her stuff in some of the current and later books, because she's talking about cosmological issues and what does it mean to say time begins at the Big Bang, and how many infinities are there, and can there be an infinite number of universes? There's a ton of stuff, and she explains stuff. She's a professional physicist in a just delicious and witty way, and pay attention to. I'm sorry, I can't think of her name quite off the bat. And then, so you've got all these people who, if you look at the various people that we brought up in The Rocks Were There, Volume 1, from Joel Duff and Jerry Coyne and various others in there, keep track and follow their work, because they act as absolutely magnificent in windows into the material. My own particular things, I look at the various technical journals that I encountered, and I share those with you in the videos up as well. This one episode, to the exception, won't be any commentary stuff on that. But the thing is that the more everybody interconnects stuff, the more fantastically interesting all of this science is. I am like a kid in a can. Bet Lavender Lady, Sabine Hosenfelter. Yes, there we go. There, you've seen her. She is just absolutely hilarious and informative, and they're all really short things. They're typically about 8 or 9, just incredibly tiny. So check out her channel, Sabine Hosenfelder, that you can gradually gather together a network of fabulously informed people who can simultaneously talk about the general science and talk about when idiots doing stupid science and mangling the stuff, and we can marshal all of that together. So it's not only informative and fun, it's just exhilaratingly interesting, because I'm sure, Diane, you would agree with me that for people in our generation, how much the science has changed. Does this stuff, oh yes, she does this stuff with the Royal Institute too. That's a lot of her video. That the transformations that have taken place in the sciences within our lifetime, times where the Earth 2.5 billion years old to 4 billion years old, the universe went from a few island galaxies to more galaxies than there are galaxies, and the fantastic geological data and the paleontological things, the genetic. I'm old enough to remember in my lifetime DNA was discovered. And all of this stuff that homeobot in the 1990s, it's absolutely magnificent. Oh, yeah, let's put another show on that one. There we go. Bing, bing, bing. Spread the word and connect up as many people as you can on this. Extend the range of interest. Everyone will have their own particular interests, and so you can kind of tunnel vision in on particular fields, but don't forget some of these generic discussions, because watching, if you're not a physics per se, but yet you watch Sabine Felter, she'll catch you up to speed on the current discoveries. And so in a tidy way, you're brought up to the technical literature, even without having to get into the technical literature. And as I fact check some of the references and things that she's brought up, they're all up to snuff. You follow through on, and you can explore more and more and more and expand. Tip of the eye, Sabine. Yes, I agree completely. Yes, and so we're all part of an exciting world that has never existed within a lifetime of instant access to information, easily accessible, storable, for nothing, free. It's like a candy store of wealth and magnificent information at our fingertips by magic boxes like and everywhere else, which means it is absolutely unconscionable for people to be stupid in this day and age. There is no business anybody doing, oh, creation myths. Hi, Dan. How did you go with your discussion Salvador Cordova's paper? I thought your thing was going to be on this night. I don't know, a little bit before mine or not. Dan, wonderful. We've been able to catch a few of your things online here at the show because they've been loading up stuff on the big screen TV. Now, get us up to speed on that little puppy. I bet you I'm with him. Yes, he's both amiable and pleasant, and at the same time a little exciting on the content matter. But at least he has a decency of character. He doesn't have that kind of rippling nastiness that some of the bottom feeder creationists, like the Standing for Truth gang, can be vitriolic and petty. But I think Sal has kind of mellowed over the. He's been a player on the field since early 2000, where he's kind of slid into that young Earth creationist mode, which normally would have been the other way around. A young Earth creation is kind of becoming more of a straight intelligence. But anyway, it's great fun to look at that. Yeah, the neat thing about, and by the way, stay warned, Dan, finally get the Rocks Were There Volume 2 down. We're going to want you to be looking through all that's relating to genetic material, just as we're going to want to have Erica go through our evolution chapter with a fine-tooth comb, and we've got Colton to look at things. We, of course, have Steve Bauman, who vetted the geological material in the first book, and we're going to be doing exactly here. We want all of the stuff to be comprehensive and witty and readable, but absolutely accurate, so that if we made some goof up somewhere, it's going to be hard to find, and it won't. That's what we want to do, and it's a standard that I hope everybody follows, that it's getting that straight and getting the things correct is a good honor of the scholar, that you let the chips fall where they may, you do things the way it should be, to be fair to the facts. Hit you, that's the way it goes. But the only way that you can arrive at a valid argument is if you've got your facts. I'm sure all of you will agree that anyone, from whether you're a scientist, lay person, that exhilaration of finding out things and stuff that broadens your mind and it expands the way you think about things, to realize how continents have moved, to realize how genes have changed, to realize how pieces of our own human biology have come about by ancient interbreeding between humans back 50,000 years ago and more. It is absolutely fascinating, and none of this stuff would have been known until the decent science work done. So nobody should take a back seat to how fantastically informative the 21st century is, and us are obligated to try to make sure that it stays that way. We don't want people to take over in politics. We don't dictating governmental things. There are dangerous spots, not only here but in other Brazil and Hungary and Russia and others, where the ability of political people to interfere with proper scientific discoveries is going. Oh, and another thing, we saw William Shatner go into space just morning on the space penis from dear old Bezos. And another thing to go. I tell you, 90-year-old guy, and there he is doing shit. I'm only 69. I'm planning on keeping active at least 20 or 30 years. So the best is yet to come, kids. So on that, I've played the advertisement for the book. When I get back home, I'll change links and all the stuff so that anyone who wants to get the books and stuff will be able to find the links on there. Everybody tell everybody project. Now, this seems to be working well. We still got to get the video streaming angle out so that maybe we can get a lower signal level to make audio bleed outs. But yet, he's back. Okay. That's with the astrology. There's an awful lot of woo that's popping in there as the culture is kind of back into a lot of the stuff that reminds me of what was going on in the Tsars period. So it's a wacky thing that's going on, stuff that we'll be doubtless talking about in future books. So we've practically hit an hour without any other razzle dazzle. Would have loved to have had Jackson here. I bet he was at work, which is why you went on this one. So boop, we're going to end the stream. We've got our back online thing, and we're going to plug away with it. If you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. The Delta variant is still potentially threatening. We're all doing our part up here in places that we visited. We've been seeing really good mask usage in all the places that we've been down through Wyoming and into Utah and then Arizona, and then we'll be checking the way up and everything. They're very fussy about it in the parks, in the national parks, where even on the buses, regardless of vaccination status, you wear your damn mask. Thank you very much. And I haven't seen any instances of any complaints or anybody griping about it. So everybody heard about it. And we did see that little nutball in what is it, Elmo or whatever it is, the blue Elmo. The Cookie Monster, yes. This nutball, racist ball. I seem to vaguely remember seeing some material that people had been noticing him. He visits parks and tries to get pictures and that people and goes ranting the Nazi and the Jewish conspiracies and stuff. He's just absolutely crazy. Stephen Early, South Dakota, yes. We will be back next week, and not until the week after that will we be up to operational steam in the way that we will be doing things with resuming the Jensen book analysis, because for that stuff I got to be able to do my stuff from my PC, and we got to get back to all that on it. But thank you all very much for sticking with me, to know that I've been trying to kind of keep communicating with people on Twitter every once in a while. I haven't disappeared. I haven't raptured, and I'm not shutting up. I'm at it, and the Rocks book 2 is going there. I survived. The favorite. I wish I had got the damn thing. Bumper sticker. I saw way back. I think it was in the 1970s. And here, should love this one. Let me retype. It was sort of making fun of the political thing, but it was, I believe, done this way: reunite Gondwanaland. Oh, there should be an A in there between the N and the L, but it was good because that's all it said: just reunite Gondwanaland. So see you next week. Everybody safe, and we're going for it. Ending stream.